Um, in the hotel room in Dallas during QuakeCon 2002, right? Man, this is so hard to explain. And it was just basically like wide eyes and like with my tongue sticking out. And I got scared and I tried to back up, but the FBI agents had blocked my way. I didn't realize that they were behind me in the car, in the parking spot. And I went out and told them to move. And then I'm not going to ask them again. And the FBI agents, that's when they got scared. I went into my car and made it seem like I was getting a gun, and the FBI agents pulled back after that. Um, and after that, they decided to drive an SUV. And they tried running me over once in their SUV. It was a Jeep Cherokee. I was just trying to scare them so that they would leave me alone. I didn't have a gun um, because they were blocking me into that parking spot, and that creepy guy who was making the masturbation faces was um, sticking his head in my car in the driver's side, and I just was freaked out and I wanted to leave. So the face that I'm talking about is like this, right? So they had a camera in the hotel room at QuakeCon, um, 2002, and I was making these faces, and it's like a running joke with these FBI agents. They show this video to people who they want to get like embarrassed by me or embarrassed from me, who they want to embarrass me in front of. Okay, so they had this guy um, at this meditation place come in and make these faces at me inside as I was sitting inside my car. There was like a whole bunch of cars from all the other patrons at this meditation place in Wisconsin, and he specifically came up to my car. All the other cars were, pretty much empty. Everybody was inside, meditating and stuff, and I was in my car, just trying to scope out the building to see if these creepy guys who I noticed that the previous week were like, sticking their faces out, were standing in front of the window, taking pictures of me. It was the FBI agents. But in this particular night, the FBI agents had parked their car behind me, blocking me in, and this guy was coming in and going like this, right? Because the FBI agents had told him to do that. And he asked me if I was gay, and I said no. And I just got creeped out and was trying to, back up from outside my parking spot, and the FBI agents were right there behind me in their Ford Escort. So I, got out and I told him to move, and the FBI agent said that I ran over his foot. I said I'm not going to ask you again. And I was standing at the passenger side with two FBI agents, and the FBI agent who was sitting in the passenger seat said, "Oh God," like in a really like scared tone of voice, and he was looking straight ahead. I was to his right outside the passenger side window, kind of, just outside, not touching their car or anything. And the FBI agent in the driver's seat was kind of like looking at me from the driver's seat to the right, at me, and he put the car in park. I guess getting ready to shoot me or getting ready to do something. And I said, I'm not going to ask you again. And the FBI agent in the passenger seat said, just do it, meaning just back up the car, because that's what I wanted them to do. And I went, I don't remember what they said. I think it was something like, they basically were like, stonewalling me. They were not listening to me. And the FBI agents in the driver's seats made the masturbation motion and the, face like this. Like that from the driver's seat, and I could see him through the windshield as I was, going to my car, reaching into the trunk, pretending as if I was getting a gun to scare them away. I didn't have a gun. And he backed up, and I said, and I drove my car away, and after that they started driving an SUV because the SUV has a higher sill, so that in the future I can't just go up to them because they want to be higher than me. Okay, these FBI agents are tall. Like that's one of their things. They have to be like higher than me and looking down on me because they have a superiority complex. They're racist. Racists always want to look down on people, on inferiors. But because in this incident, I was on their level, they got pissed off about that, and I was so close to them. So for safety reasons, they drive an SUV so that they're high up, so that they're protected from you know any kind of future incident where if I want to be close to them, because that's how much they follow me. They keep following me. Right, I actually saw them in that SUV driving down Lemon, which is the street I live on. As I was going to my car, as I was crossing the street, they drove at me at a very, very high rate of speed, like pedal to the metal, like trying to run me over. This was probably like after that incident. It was probably like 2003, 2004. Because after that incident, where I scared them, I scared the shit out of them. They they put out all the stops. They started poisoning me even more and more at the Jewel Osco that I used to work at. They tried to run me over. I mean, they pulled out all the stops. They would come into my this room that I'm filming in regularly, steal my things, crash my model airplanes. Like I had a model airplane that is supposed to be on a specific radio frequency. Back then, the frequencies weren't locked, so if somebody had your radio frequency, they could control your model airplane. Nowadays, it's been updated and stuff, so it's hard to do that. But back then, they used to have like a frequency board at the model airplane field, where the pilot of that aircraft would put up his frequency to show the other pilots that they shouldn't turn on their radios if they had the same radio frequency as the pilot who was flying his model airplane at the field. So these FBI agents knew my radio frequency, and they had a dummy transmitter that they used to control my model airplane from the sky. And they caused my model airplane to crash by taking over the controls and crashing it. And that was at Blue Max, right around Wheeling, Illinois. It's not. I don't think it's in Wheeling, Illinois, but it's called the Blue Max Flying Club, Radio Control Flying Club. It's in a forest preserve that I used to fly my model airplane at back in like 2003, 2004. Their supervisor actually, these two FBI agents supervisor actually did that. I saw him at the field. He was dressed in plain clothes. He had a little device in his hand, and he caused my model airplane to crash. I, went out and retrieved my model airplane, brought it back to the staging area, and the supervisor in his plain clothes came up to me and said, "Oh, what happened? What happened?" As if he didn't know, like as if he didn't crash my model airplane. And I said it crashed, and then he said, "Oh, what's this? What's this?" It was like touching the model airplane. It was part of like the servo and stuff, and he was like checking to see if it was like held in tight because I had modified it, and he wanted to get that on his hidden camera that he had in his glasses, just to say that you're not supposed to modify a model airplane. But I modified it properly because I wanted the servo in the tail end. But it was actually the FBI agent controlling it and crashing it. But since I modified it, they'll use plausible deniability and say that the modification caused the airplane to crash. It was flying fine before the FBI agent decided to crash it and take over the radio frequency. It was flying fine. I had flown it dozens of times before, and it flew fine. And then that one day, the FBI agent came in and took over the radio frequency and caused it to crash. And he called me a fag right before he ran away. I never, So going back to this, and let me see if I can find that flying field. Okay, so I found the flying field. It's Deer Grove East. It was right there. There's Dundee Road, and there's a flying field right there. So you go west on Dundee Road, you go down this road, you go over here. There's this little circular road. There's a flying field right there. All right, you can't see it here, but there are like, oh, what's that? What is that? Oh, that's just that. Okay. So there's like parking spots here, and you just take your airplane there, and there's the flying field. There's a landing strip. Let me see if I can put it in satellite mode. Okay, so this is a better view. This is in satellite mode here. There's a landing strip right there. So I was, again, this airplane crash incident, I was standing right here. The FBI agent was standing right there with his dummy transmitter that he used to hijack my airplane. And he caused it to crash. It crashed somewhere around here. I retrieved it, brought it back here. The FBI agent ran to me and, checked out the airplane and then pretend as if he didn't had anything to do with it. And then before running away off to somewhere, he called me a fag. And that was the FBI agent. Okay? This is the staging area. If you can see, there's a model airplane, there's a model airplane, there's a model airplane, there's a model airplane, there's a model airplane. Well, these are model airplanes. And the pilots stand here, here, and here. And there's the landing strip where the pilots land the airplanes. And then there's just like this big field all around it with some trees over here. See, there's the parking spot where I used to park my car. And you just take your airplane there, unload it here, and then drive back here and park your car. The FBI agents were actually one day here in their car with two preteen girls who they sent out over here to clap for me. I used to go here while on the weekdays while there was pretty much nobody there. It was just me, just so I could have the field all to myself, and the FBI agents would follow me there. And they would tell these two young girls to sit there and clap for me and cheer me on while the FBI agents stood over here video recording me. That was like a jailbait tactic by sending underage girls to me. They had them watch me do something cool, which is fly a model airplane. They were getting a kick, like legitimate, a quick kick out of it. I don't know where those goals are. That was probably back in 2002, I want to say. 2003, something like that. 2001. They were probably 10, 11, 12 years old. Right now, it's almost 20 years later. They're probably 22 and like in the 30s now. I think these FBI agents actually dated those girls. They said, the FBI agents said that the FBI agents know that you can take girls who are underage on dates. Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's what they said. They talked, I think those girls were orphans. They talked about, and the FBI agents were pretending to be raising them as FBI agents, and that's their justification for having them. I think they said that they, would record them masturbating, and that eventually they had to let them go because the FBI agents got herpes, and they were afraid of passing it on to the girls. They might have even actually passed the herpes on to the girls, and they had to just let go of the girls because the girls knew the FBI agents gave it to them. Right. It's like a really nasty form of herpes that Dr. Kersner has, too. This guy right here. This guy. Remember? Kersner Orthodontics. Okay. Dr. Michael threatened me at the doctor's office while we were at the doctor's office. FBI agents told him about my life and talked about poisoning me, so I went through that. The socks that I masturbated into at one point went into the trunk of his 1999 blue Ford Escort and pulled out a white sock, and I could hear the dozens and dozens of cops in the hospital laughing at the sight of the FBI agent pulling out the sock from the trunk of his car that he used to follow me in. Now they drive an SUV, and I know why, but that's another story. Dr. Michael is his first name, and I don't know his last name. There was also... Sorry, I was just checking the time. It's almost 8 o'clock at night. There was also a gay Filipino guy in his 20s as the receptionist, as well as a black woman in her 20s, who the FBI agents placed just outside the office that Dr. Michael and I were in during that 2 hours. They heard the whole thing. I don't know their names or their whereabouts. I am writing this to gain more info because I want satisfaction. I am still seething about this injustice 14 years later. The hundreds of lawyers who I called said that I don't sound credible. How can I find out who this doctor is, and how can I report him? Should I go to the media? The hospital was called Northwestern back in 2003 and 2005 when I visited. The doctor had a Porsche Boxster. I think this is wrong. I think he actually said he had a Mercedes. And during the doctor's office visit, I think the Porsche Boxster was his friend's. I'm not sure. I don't remember that. So it's either a Mercedes or a Porsche Boxster. It's probably a Mercedes. And frequented Myers Tavern on Lake Street. I think that's where I saw the Porsche Boxster. And I saw two guys coming out of the Porsche Boxster, one of which was Dr. Michael. And that was just by coincidence because it's kind of like a small city here in Skokie. So it's kind of like a small world. So I just coincidentally saw him as I was driving by. He was getting out of a Porsche Boxster along with another guy going into Myers Tavern, which is on Lake Street. I guess I missed, kind of had like a brain fart, and I wrote down Porsche Boxster. During the office visit in 2005, he actually said he had a Mercedes. He was bragging about his Mercedes. He has short blonde hair that he spikes up and wears glasses. He is around 5'7" tall. He had a gut and wore kilty loafers. He was screaming and yelling at me during the office visit and threatened to punch me if I came near an Iranian girl named Paranaz. Paranaz was a Jewel Osco employee who I worked with while I worked at 9449 North Skokie Boulevard, location from 1999-2004. The FBI agents had sent the doctor to her to fetch her phone number one day while me and her were working as cashiers. I saw him come into her checkout line, and she wrote her phone number on his grocery receipt. The FBI agents and Skokie cops know that she is a prostitute. In fact, a Jewish Skokie officer followed me home after the FBI agents heard me talking to Paranaz via a mic that the FBI agents had installed on her ear. That was back in the summer of 2006. I told Paranaz about Dr. Michael and her affair with him, and she asked me how I knew. But I didn't tell her that that's a typo. That the reason I knew was because Dr. Michael told me during that summer 2005 office visit where he told me that he had sex with her. There is more to this story. The FBI knows about me and are covering this up. Davud Ruiz, September 29, 2019. So that's when I wrote that. September 29, 2019. Now it's November 8th, 2019. Destiny Dental, that's in Niles. That's kind of mess up on their part. I don't think the FBI had anything to do with that. I just wrote a Google review that was shadow banned. And a Yelp review that was banned, so skip that. Annie's Pancake House. This is at 4900 Oakton Street in Skokie. There's the Yelp version. Here's the address. 4900 Oakton Street, okay. Back in 2010, I was harassed at Annie's Packing House by Skokie cops who were dressed in plain clothes. The first time I went here for breakfast, it was early in the morning, just as the doors opened. At that point in my life, I knew that I was being followed, so I wanted to see if anybody was following me to places that I went. The first time I ate here, it was just me and the waitstaff, but it turned out that the FBI agents who have been stalking me since I was a young boy knew that I came here, probably via an informant who followed me here. So the second time I came here, The next day, I noticed four older men in their 50s or 60s sitting in the far end of the restaurant near the kitchen. They were waiting for me so that they could harass me. Again, I came early in the morning to see if anybody was following me. I later found out that at least one of those guys was a Skokie cop. He was the same cop who in 2011 puffed out his chest at me as he walked past me as he exited the courtroom in the Skokie courthouse during my trial against former corrupt Skokie cop Jeff Goberski, who I later won a lawsuit against. I'll bet the Skokie patch hasn't informed you all of the former corrupt Skokie cop Goberski and the rest of the corrupt Skokie police gang of corrupt Skokie Mayor George Van Dusen, who is guilty of grade fixing as he taught a history class which I attended at Oakton Community College in Des Plaines, Illinois. Instead, I'll bet you'll find a defamatory article about me, Davuduri, in the Skokie patch written by the asshole George Slefo, who literally threw a chunk of dirt at me back in 1997 during Mr. Beeftink's bullshit science class at shitty Niles North High School. I actually was a Lyft rideshare driver and had George Slefo as a pickup, but I canceled on him because I didn't want to pick him up because he harassed me. But this article, he writes articles now. George Slefo, that's his name. George Slefo. He's kind of like a news reporter and stuff for Chicago and stuff. Like newspapers around here. And he wrote a defamatory article about me in the Skokie patch. I actually saw it, but that article, I guess, got banned or somebody deleted it after I mentioned to my lawyer that I saw it. And I guess it was like reposted. I haven't looked back to see if it's posted or not. I don't really know. But it was basically a defamatory article about me that I was, telling lawyers about so I could sue George Sleffel, but I couldn't find the article anymore because I guess the FBI agents, since they have my telephone monitored, they got on that so quickly that they had the article deleted. But then after I saw that the article was deleted and I couldn't show it to any lawyers, the article showed up like back then. Okay, this was like back in like 2011, 2012, 2013, or 2014, something like that. I don't remember. During Mr. Beefsing's bullshit science class at shitty Niles North High School. At any rate, the four men were instructed by the FBI agents to mock me and to cackle at me so as to make me feel bad and unwelcomed in Skokie. That's why you see those "everyone is welcome" in Skokie signs all over Skokie. It's propaganda to cover up the misdeeds of Skokie officials because I have recently come public with their discriminatory harassment of me. Those signs are propaganda. I would look at the four men to see what they were cackling about, and then I would look away. As soon as I looked at them, they would stop cackling and look away in a mocking fashion, the way I looked away. Also, I noticed that one of them spoke to the waitress and pointed to me as he spoke. As he was speaking to the waitress, I noticed the waitress turned to me. A few minutes later, as I was being served my food, the waitress whispered to me and said, referring to the four old men, "They told me to harass you," end quote. I noticed a small black speck in my grapefruit juice, which was the waitress's way of harassing me. She could just say it was an accident. She probably told the four men that she put a black speck of something in my grapefruit juice. I don't know what the black speck was. It looked like a charred bit of food picked off from the grill. The four men and the waitress have probably told other people about how I was harassed at that restaurant that morning. I swear to God I will get satisfaction. I have said this before. I wish nothing but the worst for these FBI agents and their packs of thugs, stalkers, and mafioso types who have stalked me during my childhood. The time of my life, which was supposed to be the best years of my life, when I was supposed to have the most fun. The FBI knows of me and these corrupt FBI agents, but the FBI is covering it all up. I wish nothing but the worst for these FBI agents, and may they burn in hell. Google Fight Gang Stalking for more info. Davud Rui, March 2nd, 2018. Diamond Expedited. I used to work there. Brian, Tim Milas, Jeff, Michael Sims, and others. Racist. Openly racist. Niles North High School. Okay, this is an interesting one. Niles North High School, Yelp review. Over here they have it as Niles Township High Schools, 9800 Lawler Avenue. That's the address. Over here they have it as Niles North High School. And this was also shadow banned by Google. You can't see it. That's why I posted it on Yelp. Let's see what Yelp does to it. Let's see if they take it down. I was stalked by corrupt FBI agents at this school. I was supposed to graduate from this Niles North High School in 2001. These FBI agents instructed people who I've known in my past to loiter in places in the school where I used to frequent, such as the hallway outside the lunchroom. This was an effort to creep me out. Also, in my junior year, FBI agents sent a gang of teenage kids who were probably grabbed by the FBI agents from the juvenile detention center near the FBI field office in Chicago to harass me while I was sitting at a lunch table by myself. So the field offices that I'm talking about here, let me show you. Okay, so this is the FBI field office. Remember the one that I wrote a review about? And this is the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. See? They're literally across the street from each other. Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. That's the place I'm talking about where they probably got these kids. Maybe not, I don't know. They also have other places where they hold these, bad kids. In Chicago to harass me while I was sitting at a lunch table by myself. The kids were led by a rude black teenage boy who yelled out, quote, table check, as he, end quote, as he and his gang of teenage boys surrounded me at the lunch table. I am Iranian, and the FBI agents had a Syrian teenage boy point me out to the black teenage boy who yelled out table check. By having a Syrian person as part of the group of boys, the FBI agents could deny that they were discriminating against me because I'm Iranian. The FBI agents admitted during training day, which is a reference to the movie, to discriminating against me because I am Iranian, and the FBI agents, are calling me a terrorist because I'm Iranian. Training day was the day in 2005 at the doctor's office visit with Dr. Michael. That was called training day. That was known as training day because they had the cops there, and the FBI agents were treating that day where they were telling about all their exploits and all their tactics that they used against me to the other cops, as the other cops were listening in, and as Judge Margaret Quinn was listening in too. The FBI agents are following me around because I was falsely accused by an 11-year-old babysitter of raping her 3-year-old sister when I was 3 years old myself in 1985. That's a true story. A corrupt, asshole Chicago cop said I admitted it, even though I didn't speak any English at the time because my mom and I had just immigrated to the USA. The FBI agents deleted that police report so that nobody would believe me. The way the FBI agents got me out of Niles North was that they had a bullshit summer school English class wherein a cute teenage Filipino girl was instructed to enter the adjoining office. She was instructed to grab a can of Coke from the office, which was probably placed there by the FBI agent. And I put in parentheses, the FBI agents have cute girls do dirty... The FBI agents have cute girls do the dirty work because this gives an excuse for the FBI agents to talk to the girl so that the FBI agents can later have sex with her. End parentheses. The girl offered the can of Coke to one of the teenage boys in the classroom who was paid to be an actor. This teenage boy was instructed to be my imposter. He would mock my body language. If you don't know, the FBI identifies people by their characteristics and body motions. They say that certain people have unique body motions and tics that are unique to them and that nobody else, or at least very few other people, have. So the teenage boy was instructed to mock me so that the other informants in the room, when asked by the FBI agents to identify the perpetrator, the other informants in the room would identify the actor who was impersonating me, and then the FBI agents would arrest me, or quote unquote get me instead. This way, the FBI agents can say it was a case of mistaken identity if I ever got a lawyer to confront the FBI about the harassment. The FBI agents also deleted me from the Niles North yearbook. My picture is nowhere in the yearbook. The FBI agents also set up a meeting in which they said that I followed a woman too. They had a beautiful woman all dolled up walk in front of me and my family as me and my family got out of our car and walked towards the school for the meeting. The FBI agents later claimed that I was stalking the woman. See, what the FBI agents do is they instruct women to walk in front of me so that it looks like I'm stalking women. But it's all set up by the FBI agents. The FBI agents spy on me and keep track of the paths that I usually take, and then they instruct beautiful women to walk in front of me so that the FBI agents can swoop in like Batman or Superman and save the girl. In actuality, the FBI agents are using this as an excuse to talk to the girl and have sex with her. It's a clever way of having sex with a girl. The FBI agents brag to the girl about how they set me up in these situations in an effort to impress the girl. These girls know who they are, and I hope the whores burn in hell. I wish nothing but the worst for these FBI agents and their whores. Spring Valley Nature Center, Heritage Farm, 111 East Schaumburg Road, Schaumburg, Illinois. Yelp review. There it is. I posted it. 11/8/2019. This place has an annual Halloween event in which I volunteered at for a college 101 class I took at Oakton Community College in 2003. I was harassed by a white... Sorry, my hand is getting tired from holding this camera. I'm using my other hand to navigate the mouse cursor. I was harassed by a white 30-something guy who was probably a Schaumburg cop in plain clothes, and a white 60-something old fart who was a retired cop. Plus, I was harassed by a 40-something woman who was probably a lesbian feminist, judging by her fro and disgusting gut. She looked like she could munch some serious muff. The muff muncher tried to infect me with HIV by pairing me with a young teenage girl who had HIV. She probably got it from her prostitute mother. I was required to do 2 days of volunteering for my college 101 class, and when I called the nature center, I was transferred to the muff muncher, who recognized me from the previous time I had volunteered. She told me that she had a surprise for me, all the while trying to hold back her laughter. The surprise was the teenage girl with HIV. On the first day of volunteering, the muff muncher took my ID after corrupt FBI agents who have been stalking me since I was about 8 years old lied to her and told her that they, the FBI agents, were with me. The muff muncher didn't know that they were FBI agents, and I didn't recognize them because I wasn't paying much attention at that time to figure out what was happening. The FBI agents were hiding in the bushes and watching and listening. They eventually snuck out of the bushes and gathered the group of young high school girls. The FBI agents spread rumors about me to the girls so that the girls would distance themselves from me. The FBI agents lied and told the girls that I was gay. There was also another fat, disgusting, douchebag teenage tough guy dressed as a construction worker for Halloween who told a girl who he liked that he would come to her rescue if I came near her. She was among the prettiest girls of the group. The girl brushed him off after he left the area, meaning she didn't like him. Like, she wanted me to know that she didn't like him and that she liked me. That's why she brushed him off. She kind of like took her hand and kind of like made a brushing motion as if she was brushing him away and putting him out of sight, out of mind. Because I had asked her if, like, you know, who that guy was and stuff like that, and she kind of went like, and kind of like made a brushing motion with her hand as if to like brush him away. The girl liked me, and the FBI agents knew it. A few minutes later, as the group of girls and I were formed into a circle by a racist feminist woman in her 40s, not the muff muncher, the FBI agents stood behind me. Everyone introduced themselves, and when it came time for me to introduce myself, the FBI agents started making masturbation motions and making faces as I was talking. I could tell by the expression on the girl's face that something was going on behind me. It was the FBI agents making fun of me. The racist feminist woman was trying to convince the girls to go to college and to not have sex in the bushes. Minutes later, the muff muncher approached me and took my ID and made a copy of it. The FBI agents noticed a young teenage girl who was all dolled up. The FBI agents called her a prostitute and that the guys there were probably having sex with her. The dolled up girl was accompanied by a feminist, man hating old hag in her 60s. The old hag probably hooked her up with the cops. I was quickly transferred to a secluded park of the farm by a mean, nasty, fat, homophobic 30-something fat ass who was probably a cop who tried to kill me by making fast, sharp left-hand turns so that I would get knocked off the passenger seat of the golf cart, using the centrifugal force. Because when you turn left, your body goes right, and he was trying to get me out of the passenger seat by turning left sharply so that I'd fall off the golf cart from the passenger seat because the driver's seat was to the left. He also drove close to the low-lying branches so that I would get my eyes poked out. He was laughing hysterically as he did this. He reminded me of the doctor who was trying to kill Bob in the movie What About Bob? He called me a fag as he dropped me off at a secluded part of the nature center. The muff muncher had lied and told the homophobe that I was gay. So they had the homophobe transfer me in the golf cart to join another guy and an old woman in her 50s who was playing a ghost in the Halloween event. I just operated the smoke machine as the kids and parents walked past. I'm running out of characters, so to make a long story short, the FBI agent hid in the bushes and pointed a gun at the back of my head as the ghost and I rested on the bench. He threatened to pull the trigger and make the bullet graze my head so that they could watch me suffer. And this was posted on December 16, 2017. Kersner Orthodontics. Don't be fooled by Kersner's goofy smile. It's a facade. I was an unsuspecting patient of his back in 2006. He made me put on these dirty, greasy, previously worn children's sunglasses before he worked on me as a patient. Because he's got a nasty form of herpes simplex virus and wants people to think that the previously worn sunglasses gave it to his patients and not him. I didn't realize that this was the real reason he wanted me to wear the sunglasses at first, because he claimed it was for the lights overhead the patient's face. In actuality, he's got a nasty form of herpes simplex virus, probably from being in the mouths of thousands of people throughout his life. He probably passed it along to unsuspecting patients and pretends that the patient got it from the previously worn sunglasses that he makes his patients wear before performing on them. I bet he doesn't disclose that he makes his patients wear them before working on his patients for the first time.